Docs Lab Audio on music production and audio engineering. Welcome to Docs Lab Audio and our Insight series. I do believe this is the 35th video in our Insight series, and in this video I want to talk about my new studio and my new lab and going to school. So I told you I would kind of update you here, so well, here I am. I'm Brent Cartwright, 870-447-277 at Valdosta State University, becoming a doctor. So I wanted to share that good news with you, and everything is going really well, and I'm having a minor in philosophy, so everything is going really well there, and I'm very excited. I've got a nice place set up for studies and things like that. But I wanted to talk about the music. In the last video, we talked about music appreciation. And I was really getting burned out because I really was not appreciating music the way I should. And I really needed to I had some other stuff I wanted to do also. Plus, it kind of helped me. It sparked me getting this going and going to school besides that. But plus, it's really helped me in getting back to the music. So I basically went and took my studio and I moved to the front room. So I still have all my DAW and all that kind of stuff and everything set up in the back room in my lab, but I moved the majority of it to the front room so that it's simplified. So I have a nice little studio and I've been really focused on composition and enjoying the music. I've got my guitars and my basses set up over here on the other side of it, behind it, next to the couch. I've got a really nice synthesizer and a standard keyboard for composing and experimenting and things like that. I got myself a really nice mixing board for mixing everything. I've got all my microphones set out also, and I got a simple digital recorder that actually works really well. I'm using it with a CD player to do some really cool stuff for really getting back to the music. And I can always, if I need the DAW, I can run lines right out into my front room and it's not a problem at all. So I still have access to everything else that I did in my full studio. It's just kind of off to the side. I don't use it all the time, and I just keep this next to my painting studio that I have you set up because I love doing art stuff. So I mean, I've got a painting studio to set up for, doing just artistic stuff and having fun expressing myself in the arts, and and not getting too complicated, and but just enjoying the artwork itself. So, and I've been enjoying the music a lot better lately, and so I wanted to share the new lab with you and talk about that. Now, between my music and my artistic thing, that I decided to get into aeronautics because I love flying helicopters. I love helicopters, drones, all that stuff. So I started focusing on aeronautics. So I've got my lab set up. It's based around MATLAB. So if you remember from some of my videos, I drag out MATLAB every now and then to explain to you audio engineering concepts. So a whole lot of that's going on in the engineering is either electronics or it's signal processing, and very much interrelated for what I was doing in audio engineering. So I understand a whole lot of these concepts whenever dealing with electronics or dealing with the signal processing, which has been invaluable. And I understand what's going on, a lot of this stuff, a lot better, because these are all signal paths going all over the place, taking different types of signals that are using different types of data, but that doesn't really matter. Some of it is, analogous or digital signals like music, or when I'm dealing with audio engineering, some of it's other types of data, but it's not really that different. And I've got my main studio here set up like this. It's nice and clean and simple. And then I've got an area down to the left down below it that's set up for analysis, working with Arduino and Raspberry Pi and breadboards and analysis and doing power inversions and you know all that kind of stuff that's dealing with all the electronics and building electronics and analyzing it. And I've got an area for working on that stuff, you know, whether I'm soldering or taking things apart or whatever I'm doing or cleaning things up or drawing things out. I've got a nice board for, you know, doing architectural designing, and which has been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying that a lot. Some of my tool areas, this is one of the first drone that I'm actually putting together. It's a Storm drone. It's pretty cool. I'm putting 16 motors on it, and it's going to be like a racer but a cruiser. So I'm having a lot of fun learning about it and putting it together. Some more of my tool sections set up for the lab. And this is more electronic tools and components and, you know, capacitors, diodes, I mean, you name it, and things that are dealing with those kind of things. But I get into the DAW, well, not the DAW, but my studio, that, well, if you remember from when I was working in MATLAB, that this area down here, all this is stuff I was using for signal processing, working with audio engineering. So I basically dropped it down. I put an aeronautics lab above it. So in the aeronautics lab above it, I made a different file that is for working with aeronautics, signal processing, data processing, and simulations and construction of electronic and aeronautic systems. So it's kind of complicated. These systems are pretty complicated, and I've got a bunch of them, everything from the input and output systems to component systems to drone UAV systems to arbitrary systems, 3D systems, control systems, coding systems, Arduinos, Raspberry Pis, Pixie Hawk, everything, all kinds of things. It's really complicated. I'm telling you, it's really super complicated. But I've set up this lab based around MATLAB. And when I go into it, even one of the simple ones that are like in one of these, just the basic outline of it is dealing with all kinds of signal processing, you know, and processing different types of data that are going into all different areas of flight controllers, electronic speed control systems, transceivers, receivers, Mavlink systems, GPS, inertial net measurement systems, INS systems, PID controllers, obstacle avoidance, orbital follower path, on-screen displays, camera systems, peripherals, surveillance peripherals, scientific equipment, everything that's going into it. It's super complicated, but it's so cool. And this is all running through this up above it. This is down below it here that is part of the signal processing that I can route it into here because I have this all set up to do all types of analysis, any type of signal, any kind of data that's flowing through electronics, through the virtual world that I can analyze in all these different areas, you know, different subsystems for doing different types of analysis, and or harmonic systems, different types of noise, saturation, distortions, harmonic systems. That it gets pretty complicated, all this stuff to go rolling around all over the place, but it's really cool when you get down like into this one here. That one is getting into like harmonic systems and different types of signals that are building all this noise, saturation, distortion, harmonic content that I studied really thoroughly to teach audio and engineering. And it gets all complicated. It's pretty cool. And then we get into the UAV systems I've been learning about. It's like the basic systems. They have a UAV toolbox, aeronautic toolbox, control systems, design systems. It gets, on and on and on and on. But some of the basic systems for digging around in this to deal with all these signals and all this data that's coming in here isn't that different for attitude, altitude, accelerometers, gyros, manometers, it just goes on and on. 3 dimensionals, these are like flight logs. After you go fly my drone, I come back, stick the flight log in there. It tells me exactly what it did, all its angles, trajectories, everything in 3D space, and so I can sit there and start picking apart what's going on with it and analyzing all the systems as it's doing that also, which is just it is so cool because you can sit there and overlay these on top of each other. Every little thing the drone does or the fixed wing aircraft does, you can make a log on it and analyze it, from everything from flight dynamics to air pressure to airspeed to trajectories to signal processing of electronics inside the system, monitoring different lines or different things. Like if you got a amplifier going to a dot 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 dot, and somewhere in line you can just attach a monitor to it and monitor the signal there to check for noise, harmonic content, what's going on, if it's changing, the voltages, the current rates, all resistance, everything. It is unbelievable. So, and then it kind of goes on and on like that. And this is the basic MATLAB system to getting into it, that you can work in the command window also to utilize a lot of these tools. It isn't just all visual. It's some of it's coding that you're dealing with it like this, and then you're coding stuff and you have to read it that way, or you can read it, through different apps. There's all kinds of different apps for analyze any type of stuff you want in the signal, or plots of multitudes of different types, or you want to analyze actual binary information from different standpoints or different configurations, the actual binary bits or bytes or words or their lengths or anything, or components of them, besides all the plots and visuals that you can get while doing with them. And some of the systems that they have to look around with, like this is a fixed wing model, and the step control, the input like an RC control unit, or the controls in a helicopter while you're flying it, or the controls in the airplane while you're flying it. All these systems, and I'm modeling all these and then creating airplanes, drones, spaceships, whatever, and then putting it out into the system to analyze it. And some of these systems, they get pretty complicated, It's, the plant dynamics are just phenomenal. I mean, it's so cool. Does that make sense? Autopilots and waypoint followers and follow you algorithms, working with MathLink and things like ArduPilot or Betaflight and all kinds of things like that. The mathematics is kind of heavy, but there's a lot of filtering and stuff like that, besides dealing with vector space and three-dimensional space and things like that. Vehicle dynamics, commands and environment, very simple going into it. And what's going on in there when you look inside, what is all that? Lift, drag, weight, thrust, gamma vectors, alpha vectors. I mean, it just goes on and on. All this information that it goes through here into these different systems so that the drone will fly. Does that make sense? Or stay stable. Or you can put it, you want to send it to McDonald's and get your French fries, you just put it in there and it'll go to McDonald's and ask for French fries. Not a problem. Does that make sense? And then you get into the systems inside of it, that things just like simple point mass systems, describing what's going on in there, besides the subsystems of roll dynamics, wind, weight, and what's happening when this is all going on, how this intercorrelates and comes out these three outputs and then goes into one output that comes in somewhere else, that you want to have some good kind of an understanding of what's going on in these systems, all come together in different ways to make all this possible. So I just kind of want to share what's going on with me right now in my new lab, my aeronautics lab and aerodynamics lab. And then I'm going to school to become a doctor, a philosopher, and a teacher. And so, it's gone off in a whole new direction. That this is that whole thing that the more you dig into things, the more worlds can open up to you. And, my signal processing opened up all these worlds that are so cool. That once you get in and understand it, I think a lot of times it's a learning curve for some people. They don't understand it, and so it's confusing, and then they don't apply themselves. And they just need to take time to do it, just like learning music or learning signal processing to do audio engineering, anything like that, so that you can become some type of resemblance of some type of musical audio engineering, aerodynamics, philosopher, guru person or something, on your path in life. So peace, soap, love. I thought I'd share that with you because I said I would. You have a nice day, and I will see you in the next video.